Dereck Chisora defeats Marcelo Luiz Nascimento on a 10-round unanimous decision. Now, most of you probably know that Dereck Chisora split with his longtime trainer Don Charles, which I think was a good move. I think Don Charles had taken him as far as he could possibly take him. And he's with a new trainer now called Gary Hines. In his fight before this, he scored a first-round knockout over some journeyman. I can't remember the guy's name. I think he's a guy that Dillian Whyte also fought. Well, Nascimento's another guy Dillian Whyte has fought. Tyson Fury also fought Nascimento. I think Tyson Fury fought Nascimento when he was unbeaten. And Eddie Chambers also fought Nascimento. Now, Tyson Fury knocked Nascimento out a few years back. Dillian Whyte recently knocked Nascimento out. I think he knocked him out in 2 rounds, Dillian Whyte. That might be the quickest anyone's ever stopped Nascimento. I'm not sure if Joseph Parker has also fought Nascimento. I think he might have done. And I think he took longer than 2 rounds. So I think Dillian Whyte's the quickest guy to stop him. It was 2 rounds, big left hook, right hand and whatnot. Decent knockout by Dillian Whyte in that fight. And Eddie Chambers also went the distance with Nascimento like Dereck Chisora has done. Now, Chisora came out in the first round winging big right hands over the top. His stance is different now than it was under Don Charles. He's standing a little bit more straight up. His left hand is a little bit more closer to his waist. He's not really bobbing and weaving as much as he was before. And his style now seems to be more geared towards power punching rather than volume. Because under Don Charles, it was all about work rate with Chisora. It was just constant work rate. And to be able to, you know, keep up that kind of work rate, Chisora had to get his weight down. So under Don Charles, he was down at in the high 230s, low 240s. For this fight, he weighed in at 260 pounds, which is the heaviest he's been, as far as I'm aware, since the first Tyson Fury fight. And he didn't look as bad as you would expect a guy to look who's 6'1", 260 pounds, because Dereck Chisora, unlike someone like an Odliner Solis, is a natural heavyweight. Dereck Chisora is not a guy who could ever make cruiserweight. He's got a naturally big frame, very broad shoulders, thick neck, just a wide, very big frame. So at 260 pounds, he carries it a hell of a lot better than someone like Odliner Solis, who looks an absolute mess at 260 pounds. Don't get it twisted. Dereck still looked a bit fleshy. He didn't look as trim as you'd want to see him. Carrying some excess fat there, definitely, but he didn't look that bad, relatively speaking, as heavyweights go for a 6'1" guy. Like I say, he was going for power, and one of the big criticisms of Dereck Chisora throughout his career is that he doesn't punch correctly. He doesn't punch with the knuckle part of the glove. He tends to slap and hit with the inside of the glove. In this fight, I think that he was punching more correctly than usual. And we saw that in his last fight, which was only a first-round knockout, so you couldn't see that much of him. But I think he is punching more correctly in terms of hitting with the knuckle. There was still a few times that he was slapping, but for the most part, I think he's turning the punches over better now than he was previously. So Gary Hines is obviously doing something correct, right? And I think he's trying to get Dereck Chisora to concentrate on that. I think he's trying to get him to look for quality punches, which are correctly delivered, rather than quantity, which is, you know, not necessarily the best quality of shots. So, I don't know, it's a transitional period for Dereck Chisora. At the end of the day, in my opinion, and in most people's opinions, Dereck Chisora is only ever going to be a gatekeeper. He's only ever going to be domestic Euro level. This guy's never going to be one of the top heavyweights in the world. So, when I'm looking at him fight, I'm judging him on that type of criteria. I'm not looking at him thinking, oh, can this guy ever be one of the best heavyweights ever in the world at the moment? No, I don't think so. What I'm looking at is how is he going to do against the other European level guys, the other British level guys, maybe test some prospects on their way up and stuff like that. Maybe pick up a few surprise wins. That's my personal vision for Dereck Chisora. Now, obviously, he don't need to pay any attention to what I think, but I'm just telling you where I'm coming from when I'm watching Dereck Chisora's fights. And the next fight they got lined up for him unless he takes a fight in the meantime, is a shot against the winner of TEPER versus Robert Helenius, because TEPER has decided to take a voluntary defense of his European heavyweight title against Helenius. We'll see how that one goes. I'm expecting TEPER to win that fight. I don't think Helenius deals with pressure very well, and he's been pretty inactive over the past few years. I know he's had injuries and he's had trouble with his former, I believe it's now his former promoter, Sauerland. So we'll see how that fight goes. It would be, it would be poetic justice if Helenius won and managed to beat TEPER, and then Dereck Chisora got a shot at Helenius, because then he would get the chance to avenge his extremely controversial loss to Robert Helenius for the European heavyweight title the first time he challenged for it. So it would be good to see that fight. But personally, I think TEPER's going to win. And certainly on this performance, I don't expect Dereck Chisora to beat TEPER. But I don't know. A lot of people are very, very critical from the response I've seen of this performance by Chisora. But I think it was exactly the kind of opponent he needed. Nascimento in the first few rounds was actually, he was trying, to be honest with you, to win for the first couple of rounds. He was swinging some heavy shots and he was just testing the waters to see if he could actually maybe hurt Chisora. He obviously saw him at the weigh-in and thought, wow, the guy's not in shape. Let me try to swing a few haymakers at him and see if I can get lucky. So the first few rounds were actually pretty entertaining in my opinion. And Dereck Chisora was forced, because after a couple rounds when Nascimento started to tire and started to lose heart, Chisora was forced to try different things, and you could hear his trainer Gary Irons in the corner telling him, do this, do that, jab more, do this, do the other. And one thing which I saw in the fight, which I think one of the commentators also said, I think it was Barry Jones who said it, Dereck Chisora was winging this big right hand over the top. I mean, it was so obvious what he was doing because he was doing it from the opening bell. And the vast majority of these big winging right hands over the top were missing. And it became a routine. Nascimento was making him miss very, very easily. So the obvious and the logical thing to do would be, rather than wing that right hand to the head, because those of you who don't know, Nascimento was very tall, much taller than Chisora. He's like 6'5", 6'6". Chisora is 6'1". So rather than wing him to the head, aim that right hand to the body and just concentrate on the body. So that's, if I have one big criticism of Chisora in this fight, is that he did not attack the body enough. There were moments in the fight where I feel like I saw some of the improvements that he's made under Gary Irons, technical improvements. When he got close, there was a couple of times he let off some nice, crisp, short, compact little combinations. Those times were few and far between, but I did see them. I did notice them. If you were watching, if you were concentrating, you would have seen the times that he did that. So there were some signs there that he is improving technically. But, you know, like I say, I think it was the perfect kind of fight for him, a rehabilitation fight, a fight where he gets to practice different things that, or try out different things that him and his new trainer have been practicing in the gym. And I actually think he needs a few more fights like that against durable guys who are going to be awkward and make it difficult for him. But it seems like he's not going to get that, because he wants to go straight back into the fire and face the winner of TEPER, Robert Helenius. If he does get a rematch with Helenius, I'd pick him to beat Helenius even now, even though I think Chisora, or many people probably think Chisora has deteriorated. And Helenius possibly may have got better technically. Maybe the rest has done him good. I don't know. Because the last Helenius fight I saw, even though Helenius has been fighting a very poor level of opponent lately, I still feel like Helenius was a lot looser than he used to be. You know, before the big layoff and his fallout with Sauerland, Helenius was one of the most robotic heavyweights I've ever seen in my life. He was so robotic, it was unreal. But since his comeback, to me, apart from maybe he had a fight with Sherman Williams, he looked terrible in that fight. Apart from that fight, his most recent ones, he's looked a lot looser and more fluid than he's ever looked before. So maybe he's improved a little bit technically. But still, I would pick Dereck Chisora to beat him. I just don't think Helenius deals with pressure very well. And I noticed that in the St. Peter fight, actually. That was when Helenius was... Actually, Helenius still is unbeaten. I was going to say that was when Helenius was unbeaten. Well, he's technically unbeaten, although most of us feel he lost that Chisora fight by quite a wide margin. So, yeah, I noticed it first in the St. Peter fight that he was not a guy that deals with pressure very well, even though he did win that fight by knockout. I was alarmed by the way a fat, slow, washed-up fighter like Peter was able to close down the much taller, much rangier Helenius so easily and get him to the ropes and get shots off. I was very surprised by that. You know, you must have a very, very poor outside game if you're letting a guy that short and slow get up on top of you so easily. So that right there showed me that Chisora had the potential to cause Helenius all types of problems. And that's exactly what happened. And I feel the same this time. I know Helenius possibly is improved, but I don't think he's improved enough to be able to deal with these pressure fighters that effectively. Not yet anyway. We'll see what happens in the TEPER fight. It's going to be interesting. So drop your comments below, people. Let me know how you felt about Dereck Chisora's performance. Do you still enjoy watching Dereck Chisora fight? Personally, I do. Like I say, I know the guy is never going to be one of the top fighters in the world. He's not really world level. Certainly not at this stage. But I still enjoy watching him fight because he comes and swings and gives it a go. And he's a colorful character, an enigmatic type of person. So, you know, I enjoy watching him fight anyway. Boxing is all about finding your level. And there are good fights to be had at all levels in boxing. It's not just all about the world level all the time. You know, you got amateur boxing at all levels, all ages. And in professional boxing, it's the same. You got all types of different levels, from domestic level, area level, and all that. And you can see good fights and entertaining fighters at all levels. And Dereck Chisora just happens to be one of those fighters who is at relatively one of the lower levels in professional boxing, or mid-level maybe, but I still find him entertaining to watch for some reason. So anyway, let me stop waffling. I'm out.